said. Dee, at halftime, I asked you, how important it was to pull off a win, to get a really good performance before heading into the tournament that they're heading into in July, which acts as a World Cup and Olympic qualifier. How are you feeling if you're the Canadians right now after this result?
Yeah, I think this is a Canada team. We do see him from time to time, don't we, where we look really good, but there's just something a bit lacking about our offensive threats, and I think we saw that again. Down the wings, like we said at halftime, we were creating a lot of chances on the right-hand side, but not necessarily a ton of quality chances. I think we saw that throughout the second half too. I mean, if we're looking ahead already to the next Women's World Cup next summer, this is kind of a taste of what we felt in the last Women's World Cup. So there'll be lots to learn from for the game today for Bev Priestman's team.
What did you see, Ollie?
Yeah, again, it's like Diana said, and it's something we've been saying for a long time, is that this type of opponent and this type of game does give Canada problems. I think you can go all the way back to Kenneth Heine-Moller, his time in charge of the team. I thought early on in Bev Priestman's reign, we were starting to see real improvements in that regard, in terms of Canada's ability to have lots of the ball, to create chances in those scenarios, and to beat teams in those scenarios. I think since the Olympics, when, out of necessity, and obviously it was the right call, they won a gold medal, they adopted a bit more of a defensive approach at that tournament. Since then, I think they've struggled to kind of recapture what we saw at the She Believes Cup last year. The friendly against England comes to mind, which was obviously a very, very good performance from Canada. It's just not quite there at the minute in terms of the attacking fluency and the options in the final third.
Yeah, and again, I feel like an age-old conversation we're still having, Diana, is offense. And we started to see a little bit from the Canadian squad, but it does seem to disappear at times. We didn't see Christine Sinclair here today. We know she picked up a knock, was on the bench. Obviously, Bev Priestman felt it wasn't worth pushing it, knowing that on July 5th, this CONCACAF Championship tournament does begin. But can this team get goals outside of Christine Sinclair from that front line? Because we've seen contributions, obviously, from the fullbacks in the past. We really thought Vanessa Gilles, when she went in, might get one there. She scored in 2 of their last 3 games. But what is this team, kind of looking like outside of Christine Sinclair? Does that concern you?
I mean, I think that's an ongoing question for Canada, and that's going to be an ongoing question over the next several years. When or if Christine Sinclair ever decides to retire, that's going to be the question. I think the good news is we've got options. We've got lots of good options. Janine Beckie, Jordan Huitema, Adriana Leon, Deanne Rose, Michelle Prince. So there's lots there. I think, strikers, half the time it's a mental game, and all we need is a couple Canadian strikers to get hot in big tournaments at the right times, for them to see themselves as the goal scorer for Canada, and things will move forward for there. But it's games like this where we need a few of those players I just mentioned to see themselves as the answer and really take hold of the game. I think another positive for me, as you said, Vanessa Gilles and, of course, Kadisha Buchanan, those 2 center backs for us, always a threat on the corners. And in the last 15 minutes, Vanessa had a couple chances there to put a goal in for Canada, so that was really great to see.
Yeah, she changes the complexion of the game, that's for sure. But let's go to the last few seconds of this one, Ollie, the all-state save of the match. What a flurry of saves that the South Koreans had to make here. Their goalie made 2 of them. Defender right on the line makes another one, but the Canadians just couldn't find the back of the net here. Another Beckie corner. Yeah,
mayhem in the box here. Great initial save, block on the line, like you said, and then the third one scoops up. That was a corner we saw a few times, and I think Canada, we're eventually going to have some joy with it. Just Janine Beckie hanging that corner up very high. I think when she does that and does it with accuracy, there isn't anyone on most opposing teams who can deal with Vanessa Gilles taking a run at it in the air, right? She's so powerful in terms of her ability in both boxes to meet those kinds of challenges. Buchanan as well. That was clearly a strategy for Canada, and it nearly paid off right at the end there.
It did. A word we've heard Bev Priestman use a lot, Dee, has been be brave, right? Bravery. And also, there's like this ruthlessness. Do you want to see more of that from the Canadians, like especially in the box like that where you're seeing that kind of fight? What is it that you'd like to see as well when it comes to those types of moments there?
Yeah, exactly what you said. There's a bit of that ruthlessness that, again, going back to the Women's World Cup in 2019, that was the word I think a lot of people would say was lacking from Canada. It's almost like a mood, isn't it, sometimes? And it's just a bit of momentum. And I think there's such a core group now, in Jessie Fleming, who had her 100th cap today, Kadisha Buchanan, Ashley Lawrence, Quinn. There's that core group now who knows now that this is their team, and I think more and more they're going to recognize it's maybe their role to set that tone at different points in the game. because it takes one big tackle sometimes, the right pass, a little bit of quality to change that sort of thing in a game, and then suddenly things start to click, and suddenly you've got one, and that leads to two, that leads to three. So I think this is a team that's really going to hopefully mature over the next few years, and that's something hopefully Bev Priestman's team is going to work on leading up to the World Cup next summer.
Yeah, just looking to break that dam, that's for sure. Well, our Emily Wilson is also at BMO Field there with you, Diana, and she had a chance to catch up with Cloe Lacasse.
Okay, Chloe, so a 0-0 result at home. What are your thoughts on tonight's performance?
I mean, this is our first part of our journey, right, before the CONCACAF Championship starts. So we're getting going, we're making those partnerships, we're trying to see the chemistry in between each other. Korea was very well organized today, so this was a great way to start our journey, just to be aware and get prepared to deal with a block like they did today.
Okay, and then coming out into the second half, what was the game plan?
Of course, we wanted to get more shots on frame. After the first half, we're kind of getting the butterflies out. We're starting to get our chemistry going. So we want to get more shots on frame and just be more dangerous.
And obviously, you were one of the subs that came on in the second half. Just curious, what kind of qualities are you hoping to bring to the team as a starter, as a sub, going into the Women's Championship in a few weeks?
Of course, coming in as a substitute, you want to make a difference. You want to change the dynamics, and you want to create an impact, right? And I hope that today was the start to that, and next time we get that win.
Okay, and then just the last one, besides the result, how's the squad feeling heading into the Women's Championship?
I mean, we've gotten the first few days under our belts now, and we're starting to feel better and better going into the CONCACAF, and I think now we're heading to Miami, and we're excited about that, and now it's time to get those wins and bring the title home.
Beautiful, thank you.
Thank you.
You know, Diana, John Herdman always says it when the men get together. He says, you know, we haven't been together for X amount of months, and, you know, the first 20 minutes might be sticky. We haven't seen the Canadian women together since April. Do you kind of look at this game as well, just as Cloe Lacasse said, kind of getting those butterflies out, getting their legs back underneath them as a national team? Now they're going to head to Miami and train before this. How important is that to just be together to get that cohesion?
Yeah, that's so important, isn't it? I like the word sticky, Andy. I'm going to steal that. It looked a bit sticky tonight. Yeah, I think once they've got a few weeks under their belt together, I think you're going to see a bit more easy chemistry coming through. And again, CONCACAF, you're not playing the world's best necessarily in those opening round games, so Canada will have a real chance to build a lot of that chemistry that Lacasse was talking about. And generally, CONCACAF nations aren't going to be as organized in the back as Korea was tonight. So there's going to be opportunities for a few people to get some goals, get feeling good going into that, the big games in that tournament, which are really the semi and the final. And then, I mean, the test in that tournament is always against the U.S., isn't it? So Canada, like you said, is going to have lots of time to get some good feels, get rid of the stickiness, get some chemistry going, and then we'll have a really good measure of where they're at.
Yeah, how do you feel the Canadians, Ollie, play their best? I mean, is it kind of on that counter-attack where they just press the other team, create the turnover, and then bomb it? Or do you think they're a little bit more possession-oriented? Just where do you see Canada thrive?
I think they can do both, but right now it seems like, it seems like they have a lot of success, as we saw at the Olympics, and as we've seen earlier in the year at the Arnold Clark Cup as well, when they play against very, very good teams who, do come out of their block a bit more, leave more space behind for Canada to attack into. And we know Canada can defend very well against those teams. And then they can roll over some of the smaller CONCACAF nations. We see it at previous CONCACAF championships as well. The lack of goals generally isn't a problem against those kinds of opponents. It's kind of the middle ranking teams who show them a lot of respect, like South Korea did today, playing quite a low block and don't give them any space. Those are real challenges for Canada, and challenges they're not necessarily passing with flying colors right now, and that makes the potential of going into that one-off Olympic playing game against Mexico. If Mexico adopts that kind of approach and can do it decently, and I think they can, that's going to be a real big ask for Canada.
Well, Dee, before we say goodbye to you and allow you to go continue celebrating, of course, they honored you before the game here. This championship, as we've been saying here on One Soccer, it's different. It's the first time we're seeing this type of qualification. The top four, so the top two in each group, qualify for next year's World Cup. The winner automatically qualifies for 2024 Olympics. Second and third have to go into a playoff. And we know that in the past, the Canadians have always won the semifinal game and made it to the final. And the top two, that was how they qualified before. They didn't have to win the final to qualify before. What kind of pressure do you think that puts on this squad, knowing that, yeah, okay, you'll have another chance if you don't win it, But I mean, why would you ever want to play an extra game if you don't have to? Just what do you make of this new qualification system?
Yeah, it's a new scenario, isn't it? In the past, the Olympic qualification tournament, where the 2 teams in the final qualified for the Olympics, and that was it. No safety net, no second chance. That was typically the most stressful tournament that we ever played in. So I think this new format's going to take a little bit of that stress off. That said, I think there's real incentive to go out and try and be the first place team in this tournament, because then that takes a whole other qualification tournament off your plate. You could then use that window to go out, play some games against some top nations, use it for real World Cup prep, where another qualification tournament isn't going to give you that opportunity. You're going to be playing CONCACAF nations again, which is not necessarily the type of team you play in a World Cup. And the stress is going to be, again, on just those 1 or 2 knockout qualification games. So it's a really big opportunity for Canada to give themselves a leg up on preparation for next year.
Excellent stuff. Dee, always appreciate having you on the show. Go and enjoy the rest of your day. Diana Matheson at BMO Field, where Canada just played to a 0-0 draw against South Korea in their only friendly tune-up before the CONCACAF W Championship, which begins July 5th. It's in Monterrey, Mexico. Trinidad and Tobago, their first opponents, followed by Panama and then Costa Rica. So if Canada finishes top 2 in their group, they will qualify for next year's World Cup. But then the key is to move on and win the tournament, as you heard, to then qualify for the 2024 Olympics and go on and defend their Olympic gold medal. When we return here on Match Day Live, as the players continue to sign autographs with the fans, we will hear from Janine Beckie. Stay with us here on One Soccer.
A lot has changed since you got your last perfect vehicle. You met someone. You got a dog. Your best friend met someone too. You got new interests, a new hobby. You felt a little more adventurous. You found a bigger hobby. You explored a little more. You needed a vehicle that reflected the new you. You found it. The all-new Toyota Corolla Cross, your new perfect.
A new era for Canadian soccer begins today. Experience the emotion of every match. Watch all the highlights, the breaking news, the best debates and analysis, and all the information about the Canadian stars playing abroad. Get access to the best of Canadian soccer from any device. Join the new dawn of an unstoppable game. See the rise on onesoccer.ca.
Welcome to all states. Here, we know you have a few reasons to slow down. But we've got one more. Safe drivers save 30% with DriveWise. The safer you drive, the more you save with Allstate. Click or call for a quote today.
For life's transitions, working from home, and even small businesses, life gets better when you have space. With no long-term contracts or leases, get the size you need. Access Storage, proud partner of Canada Soccer and the women's national team. Congratulations.
Full-time stats brought to you by Toyota. Little dip in possession from the 71% after the first 45 for the Canadians, but still really dominating this one. 13 shots total, 4 of them on target. Even though there was one scary one that zipped by Kaylin Sheridan, no shots on target for her. A lot of talk, obviously, about Kaylin Sheridan taking that #1 spot now that Stephanie LeBay has retired. Let's hear now from Janine Beckie.
Okay, Janine, so a 0-0 draw at home ahead of the Women's Championship. What are your thoughts on that performance today?
I think it was positive in the sense that we had 70% possession. So it's a lot of what we're going to face in CONCACAF. Really organized South Korean team, so we have to give them credit for keeping the ball out of their own net. But I don't think we're satisfied with the performance. I think there's a lot of things we can move forward with, some things that we need to look at and clean up over the next 2 weeks before we head into qualifying.
Okay, and one big talking point within the last year recently has just been the lack of goals. So how is the squad handling that pressure to be more clinical?
Yeah, I think I take it personally as a forward when we don't score goals, and I know I share that same sentiment with the other forwards, but you know, we've been away from each other. This is the first time we've been back together since earlier in the year, and it takes time to build those partnerships. We've got some new faces in the group. We're regrouping from a really successful past year, so I think we take the positives from it. The goals will come. I think it's one of those things where we get the first, and hopefully the floodgates open.
Okay, and then on an individual note, you were one of the most active players on the pitch today, and you've also been really active with the new club, Portland Thorns, as well. So just on an individual perspective, what are you hoping to bring to the Women's Championship in a few weeks' time?
I just want to have an impact on the game, help our team win games and win the championship. I think we go there with an expectation to win, and I feel like I play a really big role on this team in helping us keep the ball and creating things in the attack and scoring goals. So I think I'll have the mindset to put the ball in the back of the net however possible, and I'm really excited for what's to come. I think this team's exciting and have the potential to score a lot.
Okay, and then just a final one here. Looking past the result today, how's the squad chemistry looking ahead to the championship?
That's one thing we never worry about. Our chemistry is the best in the world, no doubt. There's not a single person on the team who doesn't get along with someone else, so we really value and prioritize our culture, and I think that really shows when we're at our best, it shows on the field, and we always have that camaraderie, that friendship off the field, and the culture's great, better than it's ever been, so I'm looking forward to going through these next couple weeks with this group.
Okay, beautiful, thank you, Janine.
Thanks so much.
Very honest, saying she takes it personally, right, as a forward when they don't score. And this, I mean, you have to also admire the mental fortitude of a player like Janine Beckie, because remember, even at the Olympics, when she missed the one penalty shot, didn't matter. She comes back and ends up scoring a couple goals, right? Like, you bounce back, you work hard, you don't show any type of quit. But at the end of the day, the scoreline here just doesn't lie. And if this is the one game we're going off of here, Ollie, before the championship begins, maybe just what are some things that stand out to you with the offense?
Yeah, it's a warm-up game for a reason. You play them for a reason, but I think there's a few things they'll be looking to work on. Left-hand side, for me, just didn't really click on the day. The lack of a natural left-sided player, I think, is a challenge tactically for Bev Priestman. She's going to have to solve. I think in games like this, I'm not sure you need Quinn and Scott both on the pitch at the same time. Maybe a more offensive-minded midfielder could help there. And then the third thing for me is Christine Sinclair is still so massive for this team. You know, she's still going to make a massive difference to a game like today. And when she's not there, or if she needs to be rotated, who's going to step up and be that centre forward? I thought Heitema did okay today, but there's still not a whole lot of depth at that striker position.
And I think it's okay if you rely on Christine Sinclair, because if she's scoring goals, then she's proving that she still got it. So why, don't boot her off the field. Obviously disappointing dealing with an injury here today, but we'll see her hopefully in action in July for the massive qualifiers that you will see right here on One Soccer. Thanks for tuning into this one between Canada and South Korea. The Canadian women now head to Miami to train before kicking off on July 5th. That tournament, of course, will be seen right here. On behalf of Oliver Platt, Diana Matheson, I'm Manny Petrillo. See you next time.